Hi everyone, Leah here from EurekaCrystalBeads.com with another fun beading video for you. Before I get started, just a quick reminder to go check out the rest of our channel, and if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button and notification bell and you'll always know when we're posting new content. Today's bracelet is a really great, easy beginner bracelet that I think is going to appeal to many different skill levels. I'm calling it my Criss-Cross crystal bracelet, and this is a little swatch that I did as I was playing with the beads to sort of come to my final design. So I'm going to be doing it in some colors down here that I'll show you in just a second. But one of the things that I really like about this design is that it's only 3 items, not including your clasp, your fire line, and your needle. But as far as the beads go, it's only 3 items. So it's a really great project that's not going to make you pull your hair out trying to put together all the beads, pick your colors, track down all your beads. And not only are we going to link you below to the colors I'm using here, I also threw together a couple other great color combination ideas that we're going to put down there in the description box as well, in case you want some other good ideas. But again, really simple, really easy. I think you're going to love it. So let me show you what else we're going to be using. So we're going to have a 4mm Swarovski crystal. Of course, everyone's favorite, the most versatile size of bicone crystals. I have a little magnetic clasp there. You can certainly use whatever clasp you'd like. I have a size 11 seed bead. This is a Miyuki size 11 seed bead. And I have, last but not least, the most popular of popular check 2-hole beads. I have a Superduo color. I absolutely love Superduos. If you've never played with them, they are such a versatile check 2-hole bead to use and to play with. They not only work up really nicely into very unique patterns, but you can also use them with really basic stitches as well. Like you can do peyote with Superduos, you can do herringbone with Superduos. So if you've never played with Superduos, this is going to be a good little introduction to working with them, but there's so much more you can do with them as well. So I think if you've never used them, you're going to find that you love them. I'm using my tried and true 6-pound fire line. For this particular color, I am going with smoke. You could also get away with using the crystal with these colors, but I did go with smoke because it's simply easier for you guys, the viewers, to see. But you could definitely use, I'd say, either one with this design, or with this color scheme rather. I have my little snippers, and you can use a size 12 or a size 10 needle. I have a size 10 here, and so if you're wanting something a little easier to thread, you can get away with a size 10 here just fine. As far as how much of your fire line to use, it's really up to you. Work with as much as you feel comfortable handling, but don't work with so much just to not have to add on that you're going to find that you're running into tangles really, really often, because that's not a good thing either. So I'm just going to go ahead and get my needle threaded. I'm just going to flatten it between my fingertips a little bit, my little thumb and forefinger nail, and that's going to make this a lot easier to thread. Goes right through there. Pull a little bit of a tail just so it's easier to work with. You can certainly wax if you'd like, but it's not required there. So the way this is going to work up is our first box is going to work up one way, and then all of our subsequent boxes after that are going to work up the same way but in a different order. So it's really important that you watch this first step and then just know that after step A, you're just going to repeat step B over and over and over again. So to start off with step A, I'm going to be picking up 4 Superduos, and I'm going to have a size 11 seed bead in between each one. So 4 seed beads, 4 Superduos, one after the other. And something you're going to want to make sure to do as you pick up your Superduos is give that second hole of the Superduo a little look-see. Make sure that it's not blocked up. Every once in a great while, you might have a Superduo that has that second hole that you either have to pop through or it might just be sealed shut. I would say I run into maybe one every few hundred. So it's certainly not something that's often, but it's something that's not impossible. So just make sure you give a little look-see through that second hole. Make sure you're not going to have a problem there after you've started your beadwork. Now in this particular case, I'm going to leave a tail that's about 6 inches long. And the reason for that is because it'll be a lot easier later for me to stick a needle onto this tail and add 1/2 of my clasp. So I'm not going to worry about making this just short enough or just long enough. Just keep it about 6 inches and you'll have plenty to add on your clasp. I'm going to take my tail and my working thread, and I'm going to tie them in a square knot. And if you're not familiar with a square knot, that's right over left, then left over right. It's like a double knot, but that second knot is backwards. And this is just going to bring our beads down into a nice little circle. We get a cool little diamond shape like that. Now, whenever I do any project that starts with a little beaded circle and I've tied a square knot, I do like to pass through some beads before I start the actual pattern. This way I'm starting my beadwork coming out of a bead and not coming out of in between two beads off of a knot. So I'm going to pass through the next few beads in my circle. I'll probably go through seed bead, super duo, and then seed bead, super duo. Okay, if your knot happens to pull through, that's all right. That's what just happened here. Oop, and I'm getting tangled up here. It's all right, just pull through a few more. Just like that, and we have our little cross shape, and we're ready to get going. So to finish up this step A, so let me move these out of the way here. To finish up this step A, we're going to step up into the top hole of the super duo that we're next to. So that just means that if you look at the little bottom hole of that super duo, I'm just going to head right on up into that top hole. This is going to also reverse my direction that I'm heading around as well, which is just fine. Okay, so now we're going to hop from super duo to super duo using those top holes all the way around, and we're going to pick up seed bead, crystal, seed beads. So let me get a little grouping of 4 seed beads here. 4 crystals, some seed beads, and I'm going to pick up seed bead, bicone, seed bead, just like this, and head right on into the top hole of the next super duo. Make sure not to get your tail caught in there, just like that. Okay, so we're going to pick that up again, crystal, bicone, crystal, or I'm sorry, seed bead, crystal, seed bead. We're going to go through the next top hole of the next super duo, just like that. Okay, I'm going to do that real quick 2 more times. Seed bead, crystal, seed bead. Go through the next one. Just hold that tail so it's out of the way. Seed bead, crystal, seed bead. And then we're going to go through the next top hole of that next super duo, but then we're also going to go through the seed bead and the crystal right after it. Okay. Okay, I couldn't quite get through all of them at once. That's okay. You can get through what you can get through and then pull through and then go through the next part, which for me was that crystal. I'm going to give you a nice little close-up of what we have here. This super cute little element, which by the way, just on its own would make such a cute little earring. You could dangle a little drop below it, or even just keep it as it is and just add an ear wire with a little beaded loop, and you have a really cute little element right here. But we're going to keep going. But the way this is going to differ now is for this first section, we started in the center and worked our way out. But now for all of the subsequent sections, we're going to actually start with the outside and work our way in. And that is what's going to allow us to continue to use the same thread as opposed to making all of these elements separately and then attaching them together. So what we're going to do is we're going to string on the beads that we have going around our perimeter. So that's going to be, get a few more of these out here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to pick up seed bead, super duo, seed bead, check that double hole, and then pick up a crystal, seed bead, super duo, seed bead, crystal, seed bead, super duo, seed bead, crystal, and then lastly, seed bead, super duo, seed bead. And you'll know you're done because you'll have added 3 bicones into this mix, and you'll have started and ended with the little seed bead, super duo, seed bead. So I'm going to bring this all the way down, and before I keep going, I'm just going to take a quick little look-see through those top holes, make sure I'm good to go, which I am. Fabulous. Now, the bicone that we're coming out of right here at the end of our beadwork, we're going to loop right back up through it, just like that. So your needle and your working thread are popping out of the same bead, the same spot, the same hole, the same side. Pull this all the way down. You get this little beaded loop, and you can see it looks sort of like the outside, but you'll notice our Superduos are pointing out instead of pointing in. So the step we do next is going to force those Superduos to sit inward, and that's what's going to create the same look that we did here in our first little unit. So I like to always work with my needle pointing away from me, so I tend to flip my work, whatever works for you. But you can see where I'm coming out of my crystal there. I'm going to continue through just the next seed bead and Superduo, the bottom hole of that Superduo. Just like this. It's okay if this is a little loosey-goosey, that's okay. Once we pull this through, we can give it a nice little tug, and it's going to tighten up. Just like this. Now I'm going to step up and reverse my direction by going through the top hole of that same Superduo. And this is going to start me going around the other side. Oops. Don't let your work get pulled out of your hands, folks. Okay. So now we have something very simple that's going to pull in all 4 of these Superduos, and those are just 4 little seed beads. So just like we saw in the original unit, we have a little seed bead in between that hole of that side of the Superduo. We're gonna have the same thing here. We're gonna pick up a single seed bead, and we're gonna go into the top hole of the next Superduo. And as we pull tight, it's gonna pull those 2 Superduos in to the center of our little unit here. Don't get your tail caught in there. Give you a nice good close-up. You can see it pulls them right in. Give it a nice little tug, and we're going to do the next one. We're going to pick up another seed bead, go into the next Superduo. That top hole pointing outwards, just heading, in my case, clockwise around because I flipped my beadwork. You can see it's going to pull right down into the center. I'm going to do it again. Seed bead, top hole of the next Superduo, pull this down. You can see that we're just missing one more seed bead. We're going to head into the Superduo that we started with, the first one that we flipped into the center. Just like this. Now, because we have crystals here, we want to make sure that we reinforce these areas that have crystals. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to travel around the inside of my circle just a little bit more. So through the next seed bead, Superduo, seed bead, Superduo. And then we're going to do a little flip of direction, and then we're going to be able to go around our perimeter. So seed bead, Superduo, the inner circle. We're going to step up. So we're coming out of the Superduo, we're going to step up, reverse our direction, go through the top hole. And if your needle also happens to pop through the seed bead after it, that's totally fine. That's the direction we're heading in anyway. It just saves you a step. We're going to go around our little perimeter now. We're going to do that so that way the thread path that's going through our bicones on the outside gets a little stronger, because we want to make sure that those sharp edges on the crystals aren't going to do any damage to our bracelet here. And it's especially important at this little joint where the 2 units are connected. That's where, of course, it's especially important, because that's where your bracelet is going to be doing its shifting really as you're wearing it. What we're going to do is just work around here till we get to the other side. So I'm just going to work my way around there, and I will see you back here in just a second. Okay, I'm popping out of the end here. You can see you have 2 adorable little units. Again, step A, step B, and now we're just going to repeat step B. So I'm going to show you step B one more time, but I'm going to show you a little bit faster, a little bit more fluidly. So if you find that that's the part that you want to see repeated as you need help with the video, you can start watching from this point on to see it done a little faster. If you're having a little trouble, you can rewind a little bit and watch as I made this unit here, which I did a little bit slower. So to do another of our little step beads here to make our third component, we're picking up our beads, which are seed bead, Superduo seed bead, crystal, seed bead, Superduo seed bead, crystal, seed bead, Superduo seed bead, crystal. Oops, fell off there. And then ending with our seed bead, Superduo seed bead. So if you find it easier to lay those out each step, or at least for a little bit until you get it, that can certainly be helpful. But again, it's just simply, we have 3 bicones there, and then on the beginning and in the end and in between, we have just seed bead, Superduo seed bead. Okay, we're going to loop back around through the crystal we're coming out of. That's going to form our loop, just like that. I like to flip my work now. It's up to you if you want to do that. We're going to go through the next 2 beads, which are the seed bead and the bottom hole of that Superduo. That's right there on this side. Don't worry if it looks a little bit loose. That's going to tighten up as we pull down, just like that. Now we're going to reverse directions. We're going to go through that top hole. Now we're going to use just 4 single seed beads to pull those Superduos in. So we got our first seed bead here, go through the top hole of the next Superduo, pick up a seed bead, go through the top of the next Superduo, pick up a seed bead, go through once more. Oops, let it get pulled right out of your hands. And then lastly, that 4th seed bead, and going through the very first Superduo that we started with. Give it a nice little tug, always pulling in the direction that your thread's coming out of your beads. We have our next little unit, but now we want to just do a little reinforcing. So we're going to travel almost all the way around our little circle here, which is just going to be actually about halfway. So it's seed bead, Superduo, seed bead, Superduo. Now we're going to step up, reverse our direction by going up into the top hole of that Superduo and start to go around our perimeter. And again, as you're going through that Superduo, if your needle pops through another few beads, that's totally fine. It just saves you a step. Okay, so now all I'm doing is going through here around my perimeter to pop out of the end crystal again. And again, I can't stress enough that you don't want to neglect this step. It's not only important to reinforce the areas where we have crystal and we want to make sure that our bracelet lasts a nice long amount of time, but this is also going to help with your tension, and that's important as well, because when you're working with crystal, the looser your tension is, the more your beads can move around and rub around, and that's also how you're going to risk a breakage. So you want nice, good, firm tension. You're not pulling like crazy, but you want everything to be sitting in its nice little spot and not be wiggling around. So it's dual purpose for the longevity of your bracelet. So there we go, 3 little units. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of my bracelet finished. I'll see you back shortly and I will show you putting on your clasp. Okay, so as you can see, I have my bracelet all finished. This particular one, let's see, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 little units long, and it is perfect for my size wrist. So it's going to be about a 7.5 or so. A good way to figure it out is that every 2 units, including the little connector crystal after it, is going to be about 1 inch. So that kind of allows you to easily figure out how many beads you're going to need. So I've added the clasp at one end, and I'm going to show you how I did that by adding it to the first end, which is the end that had my tail on it. So I threaded a needle onto my tail, and you want to come out of the little crystal bicone at the tips, and that's not where we are now. So I'm going to go around my inner circle through Superduo, seed bead, Superduo, so that way I can now reverse my direction and go right to the top hole of that Superduo, the seed bead, and then the crystal after it. And if you can't get through it all in one pass, it's totally fine. One bead at a time. That's what you want to see. Okay, so now to add our clasp, we're just going to be using some seed beads. So all we need to have around are some seed beads. Now I'm going to start by picking up 5 of my little Miyuki 11s here. And we're going to loop back around through the crystal that I'm coming out of. We're going to get a cute little beaded loop. Now I'm going to go through that beaded loop again, but I'm going to skip the third bead. I'm going to skip the bead that's right in the middle. And the reason I'm going to do this is because it's going to help it to pop straight out and sit at a nice little point right there. So I'm going to go through the first 2, skip over the middle one, and go through the second 2. And then I'm going to go through my crystal again. And you might have to encourage it to pop up, or it's going to do it just on its own like it did just for me. Sometimes you might have to take your needle and just kind of go pop it right up, but this one did it beautifully just for me right there. Now I'm going to go through my loop again, but I'm going to exit from that middle seed bead. Now, depending on your clasp, we'll determine how many beads you want to pick up for a little beaded loop here. So for this particular clasp, and the fact that these seed beads are not going to want to float through the loop of that clasp, I'm going to pick up 3, go through the clasp, and then pick up another 3. If your clasp has a loop that's larger where your beads are going to float through it, you could pick up a different amount. You could pick up 6, or you could pick up 7, and you could pick them up all at once if they're just going to float right through it. In this case, that loop is not going to allow the seed beads to float through it, so I did have to pick up half and half. Another thing to consider is that with this particular clasp, it doesn't really matter the direction of the loop because the clasp is the same all the way around. But if you're using a different clasp, like a toggle, and you want to have that toggle oriented a certain way so it sits correctly on your wrist, you may have to do this little loop here we're doing and then add a jump ring to then attach to your toggle, so that way your toggle sits the right way. But it also all depends on the toggle and the direction of the loops on the toggle. So just something to keep in mind. You may need a jump ring after this, you may not. It all depends on the clasp you pick. I'm a fan of this magnetic clasp because it's nice and small and dainty. It's a fairly lightweight bracelet, but it's also really strong, and it allows me to not have to need any kind of additional connector. So I'm a fan of it. So I'm going to pick up my 3 seed beads here. I'm going to go through the loop of my clasp, pick up my other 3. Now, because it is a magnetic clasp, my needle may want to stick to it a little bit, so that can get a little annoying, but it's not that big of a deal. I'm going to loop back through the seed bead that I'm coming out of. So my thread and my needle are coming out of the same place, just like this. You get a nice little beaded loop. Now I'm going to circle back up into that beaded loop a couple of more times to reinforce it. So whatever your needle can kind of go through at once, that works. Head back down, crisscross over that little bead that's kind of like that little intersection, that popped up bead. Go up through your loop of beads again, go right through that clasp. Get this area nice and strong because this is where all of the stress of the bracelet's going to be on those crystal joints and on where your clasp is. So we want to make sure that we get it nice and strong. Pass back through that little connector bead one more time. And now we just have to knot off our thread. So we're going to go down. Oops, see, my needle wants to keep pulling that magnet up. We're going to go down those little side beads, those 2 little side beads, through our crystal. Again, you can never have too much reinforcement there. And then we can start to make some of our knots. So I'm going to pass my needle underneath the threads that are going through those beads, pull a little loop, close my loop. I'm going to go through another couple of beads. Usually just whatever my needle kind of happens to pop through is what I'll stick with. Put my needle behind those threads. Pull my needle. Oop, my loop wants to get a little small. Pull my needle through that loop. Close down that knot. So with what little thread I have left, I'm going to do a few more knots, weave a little bit more, and I'm going to snip that thread off, and then my bracelet is all done. So one last little tip about working with magnetic clasps, and something you can tell your customers if you're making these to sell or as to give as gifts, is you always want to tell them never pull the magnetic clasp out like this. That is what causes stress to this area. You always want to slide your magnetic clasps. Slide, just like that. That's what's going to keep this whole area nice and supported. So that is it, folks. Take a look at our description box below. I give you a few other lovely color schemes in mind. Again, it's a great bracelet. There's only 3 different items, not including your needle and your fire line and your clasp. But as far as the beads go, it's a beautiful, easy bracelet to manage, great for any skill level. So yeah, that wraps it up. Thanks for watching. Make sure to visit us on over at EurekaCrystalBeads.com for everything that I used, as well as those other fun color schemes. And hopefully we can satisfy all of your beading and jewelry needs. Bye.